From feeling anxious, to craving chocolate, to seriously considering ending it all. This is how trillions of bacteria living in your gut are controlling your entire mood right now. And spoiler alert, while some of these microscopic tenants are keeping you happy and chill, others are literally making you depressed. But first, let's get one thing straight. You have about 100 trillion bacteria living in your digestive system at this very moment. That's insane. These little guys outnumber your actual human cells. And get this, scientists now know that different species of gut bacteria are directly responsible for producing the chemicals that control your emotions, your cravings, your anxiety levels, and even whether you want to get out of bed in the morning. This isn't some pseudoscience wellness guru nonsense. This is actual neuroscience. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly how these microscopic organisms are basically running your brain. But first, let's start with what's actually living inside you. So what exactly is living inside you right now? Scientists call it your microbiome, which is basically a fancy word for the trillions of bacteria, fungi, and other microorganisms that live in your digestive system. And we're not talking about a few hundred species. There are over 1,000 different types of bacteria alone living in your gut. That's insane. And get this, all these microscopic organisms combined weigh between 2 to 5 pounds. That's like carrying around a chihuahua made entirely of bacteria. Charming. The two main players in your gut are called Firmicutes and Bacteroidetes. I know, those names sound like something out of Harry Potter, Expectobacteria, but they're real bacterial phyla that make up the majority of your microbiome. Firmicutes are generally better at extracting calories from food, while Bacteroidetes help break down complex carbohydrates. And the balance between these two can actually determine whether you gain or lose weight. Pretty wild. But here's something most people don't know. You're born with almost none of this. That's right. When you come into this world, your gut is basically sterile. But if you were born naturally, you picked up your first bacterial colonizers while passing through the birth canal. Gross, but important. And if you were born via C-section, you got a completely different starter pack of bacteria from your mom's skin and the hospital environment. Studies show that C-section babies have different gut compositions that can last for years. Kind of crazy to think about. And those first 3 years of your life, that's when your gut microbiome gets established. Whatever bacteria colonize your intestines during that time basically set up shop permanently. It's like they're claiming territory. After that, your core microbiome stays relatively stable throughout your life, unless something drastic happens. And by drastic, I mean antibiotics. Every time you take antibiotics, you're basically dropping a nuclear bomb on your gut bacteria. Sure, antibiotics kill the bad bacteria making you sick, but they also wipe out a ton of good bacteria in the process. And here's the problem. Some of those good bacteria never come back. Ever. Which means every round of antibiotics permanently changes your microbiome composition. Oh, and don't even get me started on the modern Western diet. All that processed food, artificial sweeteners, and lack of fiber, it's absolutely destroying our gut diversity. Studies comparing people in Western countries to those in more traditional societies show that we've lost hundreds of bacterial species that our ancestors had. We're basically running our gut ecosystem on survival mode. So you've got trillions of bacteria living rent-free in your gut. Cool, but what are they actually doing in there? Well, it turns out they're making brain chemicals. Yeah, you read that right. The bacteria living in your intestines are producing neurotransmitters, the same chemicals that control your mood, your emotions, and whether or not you want to crawl into bed and never come out. Here's the most insane part. About 90% of your body's serotonin is made in your gut, not your brain. Let that sink in for a second. Serotonin is the happy chemical that everyone talks about. It's what antidepressants like Prozac and Zoloft are designed to increase. And your gut bacteria are responsible for making almost all of it. That's pretty wild when you think about it. But serotonin isn't the only neurotransmitter your gut produces. Your bacteria are also churning out GABA, which calms your nervous system, dopamine, which controls motivation and pleasure, and norepinephrine, which affects alertness and focus. Basically, your gut is a neurotransmitter factory, and the workers in that factory are bacteria. The main producers are bacterial species like Lactobacillus and Bifidobacterium. Try saying those names 5 times fast. Good luck. These guys are the MVPs of your microbiome because they're actively synthesizing the chemicals that keep you mentally stable. Without them, your brain would be running on empty. But wait, there's more. Your gut bacteria also produce short-chain fatty acids when they digest fiber. These fatty acids don't just stay in your gut. They travel through your bloodstream and actually feed your brain cells. It's like your bacteria are making food specifically designed to keep your brain healthy. Pretty thoughtful of them, honestly. Oh, and then there's inflammation. When your gut bacteria are out of balance, they can trigger inflammation in your intestinal lining, and that inflammation doesn't stay local. It sends signals throughout your entire body, including your brain. Studies show that people with depression often have higher levels of inflammatory markers in their blood. Coincidence? Scientists don't think so. And here's where things get really interesting. Your gut has something called the intestinal barrier, which is basically a protective wall that keeps bacteria and toxins from leaking into your bloodstream. When this barrier is healthy, everything's fine. But when it breaks down, you get what researchers call leaky gut. And when your gut starts leaking, all those inflammatory signals and bacterial byproducts can reach your brain. Not great. So bacteria making brain chemicals in your stomach? That's wild. But your stomach and your brain are, like, pretty far apart. How does this actually work? The answer is something called the vagus nerve, and it's basically a superhighway running directly from your gut to your brain. This thing is the 10th cranial nerve, and it's the longest nerve in your entire body. It starts at the base of your brain, travels down through your neck and chest, and connects to pretty much every major organ, including your stomach and intestines. But here's the crazy part. Between 80 to 90% of the nerve fibers in the vagus nerve carry information from your gut to your brain, not the other way around. Let that sink in for a second. Your gut is constantly sending messages up to your brain, telling it how to feel. It's like your gut is texting your brain all day long with status updates. Hey, feeling anxious today? Yo, we need chocolate as soon as possible. Everything's chill, don't worry about it. And these signals aren't slow either. They travel at speeds over 200 miles per hour. That's faster than a Formula One race car. So when your gut bacteria produce those neurotransmitters and inflammatory signals, they're not just floating around down there. They're actively hijacking the vagus nerve and sending express messages straight to your brain. Scientists call this whole system the gut-brain axis, which sounds way more official than your stomach is literally controlling your thoughts, but that's basically what it is. Oh, and it works in reverse too. When you're stressed, your brain sends signals down the vagus nerve to your gut. That's why you get an upset stomach before a big presentation, or why anxiety can trigger digestive issues. The communication goes both ways. It's a two-way street of neurological chaos. And here's something wild. People with IBS, which is irritable bowel syndrome, are way more likely to also have anxiety disorders. Some studies show that up to 60% of IBS patients also struggle with anxiety or depression. For years, doctors thought it was just because having chronic stomach pain makes you anxious. But now, they're realizing it might be the other way around. The gut problems might be causing the anxiety through this vagus nerve highway. You know that feeling you get in your stomach when you're nervous? Those butterflies? That's not a metaphor. That's your gut and brain actually communicating through the vagus nerve. Your gut is literally telling your brain, hey, something feels off, and your brain is responding by making you feel anxious. It's all connected. So bacteria making chemicals, direct highway to deliver messages. But which bacteria are good guys, and which are villains? Okay, meet the main characters in your gut's ongoing drama. First up, we've got Lactobacillus rhamnosus. This little guy has been shown in studies to reduce anxiety and stress. Researchers tested it on mice. And yeah, I know, mice aren't humans, duh. But these mice showed significantly less anxious behavior after getting doses of this bacteria. Not all heroes wear capes, some just hang out in your intestines. Then there's Bifidobacterium longum, which helps with stress resilience. This one's been linked to lower cortisol levels and better emotional regulation. Basically, it helps you handle stress without completely losing it. Pretty useful, honestly. And you've got Akkermansia muciniphila, which is a mouthful to say, but an absolute legend. This bacteria lives in the mucus layer of your gut and helps maintain your intestinal barrier. Remember that protective wall we talked about? This guy is the maintenance crew keeping it strong and intact. But not all bacteria are heroes. Enter the villains. When proteobacteria starts to overgrow, that's when your gut barrier begins to break down. This is what scientists call leaky gut. And it's exactly as gross as it sounds. Your intestinal wall gets permeable, letting bacteria and toxins slip into your bloodstream where they definitely should not be. And then there's Clostridium difficile, which is straight up evil. This bacteria can take over your gut after antibiotic use and cause severe diarrhea, inflammation, and in extreme cases, death. C. diff, as it's called, is responsible for nearly 500,000 infections in the US every year. This is the villain no one wants. But here's the thing. It's not about completely eliminating the bad bacteria or only having good bacteria. Your gut needs balance. It's like an ecosystem. You need predators and prey, decomposers and producers. Ecology class flashback. The goal is diversity. Studies show that the more diverse your microbiome, the healthier you tend to be. It's not about any single bacterial species. It's about having hundreds of different types all working together. The problem is, modern life is destroying that diversity. The Western diet, full of processed foods and low in fiber, is basically a bacterial wasteland. And antibiotics? Every time you take them, you're resetting your gut ecosystem and often losing species that never come back. Scientists call this state gut dysbiosis, which is when the bad guys outnumber the good guys and everything goes to chaos. And when the bad bacteria take over, things get dark, like clinically depressed, dark. Right now, about 264 million people worldwide are living with depression. That's roughly the population of Indonesia. And millions more are struggling with anxiety disorders. For decades, we've been told it's a chemical imbalance in the brain. Low serotonin. Just take these pills and you'll feel better. But that explanation has always been incomplete. And now, scientists are finding out why. Turns out, a huge part of depression might actually start in your gut. In 2019, Belgian researchers published a massive study looking at the gut bacteria of over 1,000 people with depression, and they found something wild. Depressed people were consistently missing specific types of bacteria, two in particular, Coprococcus and Dialister. These bacteria were depleted or completely absent in people with depression, but present in mentally healthy individuals. Now, correlation doesn't always mean causation. Just because depressed people are missing these bacteria doesn't automatically mean the bacteria absence caused the depression. Or does it? Because here's where things get really interesting. Researchers have been doing fecal transplant studies. Yeah, you heard that right, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's of depressed people. And in some cases, the depression symptoms actually improved. That's insane. This has opened up a whole new field called psychobiotics. These are probiotics specifically designed to improve mental health, and pharmaceutical companies are now racing to develop them. We're talking about treating depression not with brain drugs, but with gut drugs. And it gets crazier. Studies show that people with high levels of gut inflammation markers are significantly more likely to develop depression later. The inflammation in your gut can predict future mental health problems. Think about that. Your intestines might be warning you about depression years before it hits. Even more disturbing, research on suicide attempt survivors shows they have distinctly different microbiomes compared to people who've never attempted suicide. Different bacteria, different mental health outcomes. This is the kind of thing that makes you furious because it could have been prevented. If we'd been looking at gut health this whole time instead of just throwing SSRIs at everyone, how many people could we have helped? Dang, that's frustrating. Now, to be clear, this doesn't mean all depression is caused by bad gut bacteria. Mental health is complicated. But the gut-brain connection is clearly a massive piece of the puzzle that we've been ignoring. And that's kind of unforgivable. But depression and anxiety aren't the only things your gut controls. Turns out, this thing has opinions about basically everything. Ever wonder why you suddenly crave chocolate at 3 p.m.? Or why you can't stop thinking about pizza? Plot twist. That might not be you. That might be your gut bacteria, literally hijacking your brain's reward system to get what they want. Because certain bacteria thrive on sugar, and they've figured out how to manipulate your cravings to feed themselves. It's like having tiny parasites that control your thoughts, which, honestly, is kind of what they are. And here's something that's gotten researchers really interested. Studies are finding strong correlations between gut bacteria composition and autism spectrum disorder. Now, to be very clear, this is correlation, not causation, important distinction. But kids with autism tend to have significantly different gut microbiomes compared to neurotypical kids. And some preliminary studies suggest that improving gut health might help with certain autism symptoms. The research is still early, but it's a promising area that deserves way more attention. Then there's Parkinson's disease. For years, we thought Parkinson's started in the brain. But there's this thing called the Braak hypothesis, which suggests Parkinson's might actually start in the gut and travel up the vagus nerve to the brain. That's wild. Some researchers are finding abnormal protein deposits in the guts of Parkinson's patients years before they develop the classic brain symptoms. If that's true, we might be able to catch and treat Parkinson's way earlier than we thought possible. Oh, and your sleep quality? Yeah, your gut has opinions about that, too. Studies show that people with diverse, healthy microbiomes sleep better and have more consistent sleep patterns. Meanwhile, people with poor gut health struggle with insomnia and disrupted circadian rhythms. Your memory and learning ability are also affected. Research on students shows that gut health correlates with academic performance and cognitive function. A healthy gut literally helps you think better. But here's the craziest part. Your gut has its own nervous system. Scientists call it the enteric nervous system, but most people call it the second brain. And this thing has about 500 million neurons. That's more neurons than your spinal cord. Your gut is making decisions independently of your actual brain. It's processing information, responding to threats, and controlling digestion without any input from upstairs. In fact, your gut produces over 50 different neurotransmitters. 50. It's not just serotonin and dopamine. Your gut is basically a chemical factory operating 24/7 without your conscious awareness. So your gut basically runs your life. Cool, cool, cool. So what can you actually do about this? What actually works? Well, unfortunately, it's complicated. There's no magic pill you can take to instantly fix your microbiome and cure your depression, if only. But there are some things backed by actual research. First up, probiotics. And here's the honest truth. Most probiotic supplements are garbage. They either don't contain enough live bacteria to make a difference, or they have the wrong strains, or they die in your stomach acid before reaching your gut. But some probiotics do work. The key is strain specificity. Not all lactobacillus are created equal. Lactobacillus rhamnosus good game is not the same as Lactobacillus acidophilus. They do completely different things. So if you're going to take probiotics, make sure you're getting the specific strain that's been studied for your specific issue. Then there's prebiotics, which are basically food for your good bacteria. These are types of fiber that humans can't digest, but your gut bacteria love. Things like inulin, fructooligosaccharides, and resistant starch. Try saying that 5 times fast. You can get these from foods like garlic, onions, bananas, and oats. Way cheaper than supplements, by the way. Fermented foods are probably your best bet. Kimchi, sauerkraut, kefir, kombucha. These have been shown in studies to actually increase gut diversity and improve mental health markers. The live cultures in these foods can colonize your gut if you eat them regularly. Just make sure you're getting the real stuff, not the pasteurized versions that have been heat-treated. The Mediterranean diet keeps showing up in research as one of the best for gut health. Lots of vegetables, fruits, whole grains, olive oil, fish. People who follow this diet consistently have more diverse microbiomes and lower rates of depression. Oh, and artificial sweeteners? Yeah, those are absolutely destroying your gut bacteria. Studies show that saccharin, sucralose, and aspartame can significantly reduce beneficial bacteria. So maybe stick with the real sugar. Or better yet, cut back on sweet stuff altogether. Here's something that surprised researchers. Exercise changes your gut composition independently of diet. Even if you eat the same food, people who exercise regularly have different, healthier microbiomes. Just another reason to get moving. And stress management matters more than you'd think. Studies on meditation and mindfulness show they can actually change gut bacteria composition. The gut-brain axis works both ways, remember? Antibiotics should be a last resort. Only take them when absolutely necessary, because every course permanently alters your microbiome. And fecal transplants for mental health? Still experimental. Don't go seeking those out just yet. So, we've covered what your gut does and how to help it. But where's all this research headed? Because it gets even crazier. The future is wild. Right now, researchers are working on personalized probiotic treatments based on your individual microbiome, instead of generic probiotics that might or might not work. Imagine getting a pill specifically designed for your unique bacterial composition. That's where we're headed. Scientists are using AI to map individual gut profiles and predict which interventions will work for which people. Machine learning algorithms are analyzing millions of microbiome samples to find patterns we never could have spotted on our own. And they're finding them. Oh, and designer bacteria are being engineered in labs. Researchers are literally creating new bacterial strains that can produce specific neurotransmitters or fight off harmful bacteria more effectively. We're talking about CRISPR gene editing applied to gut bacteria, the same technology they use to edit human genes, now being used to upgrade your microbiome. That's some sci-fi level stuff right there. There are currently over 300 clinical trials happening worldwide, testing microbiome-based treatments for everything from depression to diabetes to cancer. 300. This isn't fringe science anymore. This is mainstream medicine catching up to what we should have known all along. And the gut health industry is now worth over $50 billion globally. Everyone from pharmaceutical companies to tech startups is racing to develop the next breakthrough treatment. So, let's recap. You've got about 100 trillion bacteria living in your gut right now, over 1,000 different species. They're producing 90% of your serotonin, along with dopamine, GABA, and dozens of other neurotransmitters. They're communicating with your brain through the vagus nerve at 200 miles per hour. And they're influencing everything from your depression and anxiety to your food cravings, sleep quality, and memory. And we've only scratched the surface. This field is maybe 20 years old in terms of serious research. We're still figuring out what most of these bacterial species even do. Think about it. Your depression might be caused by missing bacteria. Your anxiety might be fixable with fermented foods. Your food cravings might not even be yours. It's all connected through this insane gut-brain axis that modern medicine basically ignored until recently. Pretty crazy to think that ancient cultures knew about gut health thousands of years ago with their fermented foods and fiber-rich diets, and we're only now catching up with the science to prove they were right. But if you think the gut-brain connection is wild, wait until you hear about how your gut bacteria might be controlling your immune system. But I guess we'll save that for another video.